Hey guys, welcome to the heroic 10-man Spoils of Pandaria Destro guide. This video is meant to show tips and tricks to improving survivability and DPS, and is not meant for an actual guide on the encounter. For a full guide, check the description for Fat Boss's 10-man heroic Spoils of Pandaria guide. So let me just go ahead and say that this fight is pretty much just about nuking everything. You want to blow up everything as fast as possible and just kill it all. So at the beginning, you're obviously going to want to pre-plot, and you're going to jump down and nuke the two pandas at the start. Now, one thing to note about these pandas is that your shadow burn doesn't actually generate embers off of them because of the way they despawn. So it's kind of important to try not to shadow burn them if possible. If you're going to, only Havoc one and get 3 shadow burns off on the other. After the pandas die, you're probably going to open up the big box, though it does kind of depend on the way you want to do this. It can be done in many different ways. The big box is where you're going to want to get your most burst off as possible, because if they're up for a while it can get really annoying and it can be a lot of damage out on the raid. So you want to make sure you pop your cooldowns and use everything you've got at this point. However, you're going to want to save your Doom Guard for whenever your group decides to lust. You always want to make sure that you have that Doom Guard after the lust, so it's going to get the most DPS as possible. After the big box is dead, you're going to want to follow a simple kind of rotation in which you shadow burn everything you can see, you AoE things if there's 3 mobs or more, and you single target DPS if not. Havoc as much as possible, and try to put a Havoc on the mobs with larger health pools, and shadow burn the other ones to get the most DPS out of your shadow burns. Now the only real special thing for DPS to deal with on heroic difficulty are the sparks. There's one right there, it's called an unstable spark, and you want to make sure those things die as soon as possible. If they get their supernova off, they will wipe your entire raid right down there. So when focusing the sparks, it's a good thing to know that one Chaos Bolt usually kills the spark. But it's really not worth it to cast a Chaos Bolt on a spark unless it really looks like it's about to explode. Otherwise, you're going to want to just single target it with Incinerate or Conflagrate or whatever else you have. This way you're not wasting embers on sparks, and you're using the embers for Shadow Burn and Havoc and other things that will give you more DPS, and in turn end up killing more. Now on the Manted side, this is pretty much all you have to follow. Just make sure that you're following all the other mechanics, like dropping bombs correctly and everything. For a reference, remember that you can check the link in the description for Fat Boss's 10-man Heroic Spoils guide, which will tell you all of the mechanics. Now let's head over to the Mogu side, where you're going to find a few more things that are a little different and a bit more difficult. Now the same thing applies over here with the pandas. Shadow Burn does not affect them, so try to either get a Havoc and 3 Shadow Burns off, or just single target DPS and build your embers here. Now after the pandas are dead, once again, you're probably going to end up popping a big box, and this is where you're going to want to pop all your cooldowns, including the Doom Guard, because you're probably going to end up lusting due to the high damage here. It's really important that these guys die fast on the Mogu side, especially with all the ads. Now even though all the adds can make it really difficult, it's also a benefit for Warlocks. The same thing applies over here, that you're going to want to shadow burn everything as much as possible, and because of all the adds, it allows you to shadow burn a lot more. So it's really important that you want to try to put havoc on the big guy, and shadow burn all of the small adds as much as possible. That's going to give you a huge DPS boost, and really build your embers up for later on in the fight. After the big guy's dead, you're going to go back to that same rotation, shadow burn everything, single target the bigger ones, and AoE if there's 3 or more adds. Make sure you're focusing down the sparks, Chaos Bolt if it's about to go off, otherwise just incinerate, and use your normal rotation. Due to the high damage on the Mogu side, don't be afraid to pop your cooldowns here, especially on the big guys. And that's pretty much it for this fight. There's nothing too special. It's really a matter of perfecting how to kill all of the adds. And you just need to get that rotation down with shadow burning everything, AoEing with 3 more adds, killing the sparks proficiently, and also knowing when to havoc, and knowing when to use your embers and not use your embers. Now every attempt here isn't going to be the same, so you kind of just have to get used to dealing with all of it. Practice makes perfect, guys. You're going to have to just learn the hard way from wiping. This is kind of where the fights start getting pretty hard in this raid. That's all for this one. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe.